He's currently a senior product manager at LinkedIn, ex Microsoft, and he will be talking to us today about PM skills and the career ladder you need, right? Lots of questions that you all have around, hey, how does this really look like? I'm sure all of this is covered. I did have a sneak peek at the deck, and I can assure you it is knowledge bombs all throughout. And Diego is a pro, right? He's been doing this for the last couple of years, and he's been pumped to talk to you. We've been chatting with him over the last few weeks to ensure that he wanted to ensure that he gets like the best content in front of you all. So he's put in his effort. Now it is your turn. Stay tuned.
For sure. One of the questions that we see here in the Q&A tab, and personally, I've also heard it from a lot of aspiring PMs is how do you manage the initial 90 days, right? We all know that the initial 3 months or 90 days is super crucial for anyone making that transition, right? And especially for APMs who are completely new to this, and a lot of our viewers today are people who are either getting started or in the initial phase of their career. So, what are some tips or tricks or things that have helped you in the initial 90 days to set the foundation right and help you leap forward in the job?
Absolutely. Love the question because I think it's one of the amazing things of product management, right? You study really hard, you read all the books, you talk to so many people, you attend amazing cohorts like this one, then you get the job and you're like, all right, what do I do now? Like, what's happening, right? I'll start with the big mistake. The biggest mistake that people do is they go into product management first job and they try to change things, right? Changing things meaning like, hey, yeah, there's a bug here, or hey, I think it'll be really cool if we do this thing. And that's the first mistake because you're new in an organization. There's a ton of history behind what's happening. So here's my recommendation. I divide it first. You have to understand the context. What that means is you land the job, you are there, you need to talk to everyone as much as you can, take notes. You have to ask the tough questions like, hey, what is this product for? What's the value? What are customers saying? Try to get as much context as you can. Second thing is experiment and play with the product. Ask for access to the product, whether it's B2B or B2C, but destroy it. Go through what customers go through the first time because you're new. Write everything down, every part you get stuck, everything that doesn't make sense to you, write it down. You're not going to send it to the manager right away, but write those things down. It's going to be super important, and I'll explain why in a moment. And then the third piece is expand your network. Once you understand the context, once that you understand how the product works, expand your network by talking to teams around you, not just your team. Now, when you start getting comfortable in, say, 90 days, 6 months, a year, you go back to that list of bugs and problems that you found the first time, and because now you're getting used to the product, now you're getting used to all the bias from the team. But seeing that list again with fresh eyes is going to be like, oh yeah, that's true. I struggled a lot with this. So that's where I think we should put some attention to. So yeah, context, product, and network.
Lots of folks who are joining in are maybe laterally trying to transition to product management, or maybe are right out of college but super interested in product. um, you have used LinkedIn in a great way, right? Your story says that, hey, you got and as you shared, right, someone noticed your content, and then that really sparked off a conversation which you were able to clear. Do you have some tips and tricks for early stage folks, like you mentioned, to start content? Any tips and tricks for them to get started?
Yeah, I'll offer two things. One on how to start creating content, and then the second on how to network through content of others. Because I don't see many people use it, and I think it's super powerful. So the first one, starting content. Here's the thing, right? Is I talk about product management. We all talk about product management. You don't have to specifically talk about product management um, if you're trying to get into product management. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but here's the thing, right? Is if you want to start creating content and you're passionate about, I'm going to use Google Maps as an example. You're passionate about, helping restaurants around you, right? Because you see that you live in a neighborhood where, restaurants are not getting that attraction. So you can start thinking, hey, maybe I could help them. What if there was some, digital presence? So you document your journey. You talk about that, right? You can build a project as a product manager. So when you start creating content, you don't create it as, hey, here's a project that I did for restaurants to help them have presence. Instead, you talk about, here's how I found a problem in my neighborhood and describe the problem. Hey, today I talked to users and it was really interesting to discover that some restaurants have these problems, right? And start documenting your journey. Start posting questions that you have, and as you start posting more and more on LinkedIn about things that you're passionate, that you're curious about, you're going to attract folks to you. Because think about it this way: if you all you want to do is talk about product management, then the question is, sure, but what about product management, right? Are you going to focus on the high level, on your journey, on the middle, and then you have to be really interested enough to create enough content for that. So it's definitely hard to do that. So talk about something you're passionate about. But let me just offer super quick the other thing. So what if you don't know what to talk about? Here's the best part. For people like me and others who post about product management, you can be 100% sure that we'll post something about product management, and in the comments you'll see product managers who are going to comment on our posts. Go to those comments and make an insightful reply. Insightful reply doesn't mean like, hey Aditya, this was great. No. Hey Aditya, I really love your point of view. Here's why. Here's what I think. I have a question for you. Question. And if Aditya replies at that moment, boom, move to the direct messages and say, hey Aditya, thank you for replying my comment on Diego's post. Super insightful. Here's what I learned. By the way, quick question. I have something for you. Do you think that I should do A or B if I'm learning about product management? And start the relationship there. So you don't have to actively post to start networking.
What are some ways in which they could draft a resume which will kind of indicate that they are the right candidates to be a PM?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think there's this gap between, hey, I'm looking for this particular job, and I don't have the skills. So what keywords and buzzwords I'm going to add to get the interview, right? And it may work. You can fake a few things and get the interview. I never recommend anybody lying, but some people end up doing that. Then you get into the interview and you don't pass the interview, and you think it's not. You think it's because you didn't prepare enough, but in reality, it's because you don't have the right experience, right? So if you are looking for jobs, you have to think about, let me find a product manager role where when I look at the qualifications and when I look at the job description, I could confidently say, regardless of my own profession, yes, I have, say, 70%, 80% of the things that they're asking for. If that's the case, then apply and tailor your resume by adding keywords and things on how they express it in the job description. But if you don't, and you look for another, and you also don't have the skills, and you look for another, and you don't have the skills, and you keep facing the same challenge, the problem is not your resume. The problem is that you don't have the skills. So then your next question is, what do I do now to gain those skills? And that's where side projects, moving to another company first, and then networking. That's where all those things come into play. So don't obsess with, I don't have the skills. I don't have this in my resume. I see it, and therefore I need to, throw a bunch of keywords to get the interview. No, it doesn't work like that. It's, if I don't have the skills, what am I going to start doing today to build the skills?
Awesome. Diego, time for one last question. I know we're running out, but there are tons here, and we'll probably share a dump with you in case you do post a lot about this on LinkedIn. So if you could take up some of these in your next post. Um, this one is small company versus large company. So getting product roles into, say, startups versus maybe getting into product roles at FANG companies, the really large coveted dream companies. Is there a difference in approach, especially on interview prep slash approaching on your resume, etc.? What can you do better to get into the larger dream companies?
Yeah, the startup is more high touch networking, sure, applying all that stuff, but it's even quote unquote easier, finding the startup and finding the right people and networking with them on places like LinkedIn. The interviews, completely um, out of the box. Some will tell you like, we just care about your experience, so let's talk purely behavioral, past experience. That's what we care about. Others will give you take home assignments or of places that they're really struggling with, to kind of assess your skills. So it could be all over the place for startups. Large tech companies is much more about, yes, I have the skills, because they're going to receive thousands of resumes. Two, referrals work, but honestly, not always. I've referred a lot of people to companies that I worked at, and they don't get an interview. So referrals are good, but it's not the end goal, right? It's not like, oh my god, I need a referral. Sometimes just apply, and you might get the interview with or without a referral. So having a good resume that again ties to the skills, having a referral sometimes helps, sometimes it doesn't. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, for the large tech companies is networking smartly. What I mean by that is a lot of people will post on LinkedIn things like, I'm a big tech company. Hey, I'm hiring for this role. So I go into the role, I see, yes, I'm a good fit, and I message that person saying, hey, I'm a good fit, and here's why. So networking is, I would say, beneficial in both. But the biggest difference in networking is that high tech companies or large tech companies is you have to be very strategic on how to find these individuals, versus for small tech companies, it's super high touch. You need to follow up, have a good pitch. They're super busy. So how do I craft the message that tells them, even if they're not looking for a PM, it's like, hey, I could be a good PM, and here's why. So there's no secret sauce, in case you were expecting a secret sauce and it's like, here's the
Yeah,
magical
right.
key. It doesn't exist.
Fair enough.
Networking, tailoring your material, resume, and LinkedIn, and just patience.